The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, midweek editions here. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody is in, as are you. We'll get our starting five shout-outs going here in the stream. You can log on and check out the show, Hail Varsity YouTube is where you can log on, like, and subscribe. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter, give that a follow as well. Find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence, at Justice Rhody, Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. So we'll dive in. Feuds are good, aren't they? Hatfields, McCoys, North versus the South, way back when. That wasn't good, but it was a memorable feud. And then how about Brett Bielema v. Michigan? We'll get in there a little bit. Am I missing other feuds?
Hatfields and McCoys is probably the big
pretty
one.
Iconic.
You've
got the Earps versus the Clantons. Or the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Cowboy Wars?
We were just watching that on Netflix.
Jesse James versus the Rangers.
Sure. You know. Vlade Divac versus Nicorette.
Let's see. Patrick Waugh, the goalie fight against whoever was playing goalie for the Red Wings.
Right.
Good
Detroit, Colorado.
Sure.
But from way back when.
Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel.
There's no feud.
At times on the air there is.
No.
Talk about how to treat your neighbors yesterday.
You were upset about that.
Ice Cube versus the NWA.
Or it's just NWA. But yeah.
Elijah Herbel versus the sport of bowling last night.
Did it not go well?
It didn't go great.
Were you the problem?
In the first game, I was. At first to 3, I was definitely the problem.
Did Big Brother have to pull you aside and just let you have it?
No one let me have it last night, though. No one on our team was bowling at their best last night. I was not at my best in game 1.
You were far from it.
Game 2, we were solid. Game 3, the wheels fell off for most of the team. I would include myself in there, though I probably wasn't the biggest problem in game 3. It wasn't a great night for bowling, but you know what? 2 out of 4 years finishing top 5 in the city tournament's also all right.
So is that all she wrote then?
We're nowhere close to the top 5, and the tournament continues on through the end of the week, so everyone's got to get their scores in. But we're not in the running this year. So yeah, that's a notable feud right now that's going on.
Well, we'll talk some spring game futures. Mike Babcock going to be with us from Hail Varsity. Babbers joins us here in about 15 minutes. Evan Bland will join us. Some spring football thoughts and. What's the word on Rocco? We'll dive into that a little bit. But Evan going to be with us in hour 2 from the Omaha World Herald. And then a Jock Doc, Cam Jurgens, that back injury. What's his prognosis for the Super Bowl and how dicey is that moving forward? Illinois, Nebraska tomorrow. Touch on that. Maybe hit a little more baseball as well. 489-1240, 489-1240. To get in, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris, at hailvarsity.com. The other Dave is in. If he's been in, waiting for an hour, the other Dave, thank you much. 3-putt is here. Mike from Cali checks in. Uncle Larry is here. Arlo, all right. Ronnie is in. But, hey, it's starting 5, but we always kind of go a little further. 3 putts here. It says Big Red wins by 4 tomorrow. All right, 3 putts, call it a shot. So Anonymous says 80 different universities finished in at least one final AP top 25 in the last 10 years. In one of those years, we finished 3 places out of the rankings. So we got that going for us, which is nice. And Anonymous probably talking about that 2014 season where Nebraska was, in that shootout with USC in the Holiday Bowl with the Mirren Company. Grateful Red is here.
Well, would that be last decade?
Well, I think it counts.
It counts, okay.
Because last year was technically the 2020 2024
season ended in 2025. It'd be close. It'd be right on that line.
Right.
Yeah.
Jimmy is here. Jimmy, good to have you. Tuck checks in. Steve is here. Says, ready to come off the bench, the park bench, that is. So, Captain says, you got Schmidt and this neighbor. Like that. Rocco is here. Says, Elijah, how are we with the portal additions when it comes to your bowling team?
Yeah, as I said, they weren't the problem. It was me for the most part. So we were happy with it. We're disappointed, but we got a full year to recalibrate, get back, get right.
Mad and disappointed. So the addition or holding pattern or question marks of one right guard, Rocco Spindler. He was in yesterday. Elijah, he did not sign anything. He left Nebraska, not committing or joining the Nebraska football team.
Yeah.
So
The standard in the portal is if they've not signed on the dotted line by the time they've left campus,
they're not coming.
They're not coming unless things fall through elsewhere, which is still potential.
Yeah.
I know who's the other offensive lineman from Notre Dame, not Spindler.
The center?
The center.
Good Ice? Is that him or is that a different center?
I think that's the old Michigan center, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm getting Michigan and Notre Dame confused because here's what you have.
Pat Coogan. Coogan. So Coogan is also down to Indiana and Michigan, which is very, very interesting. If you're Spindler, and let's say Coogan goes to Michigan, does that potentially interfere with your ability to go win a starting job? Of competition where you're going? Does it also change the NIL figure that Michigan is willing to offer? Things that need to be considered here.
Sure.
But both the guys from the same university have the same final two. I think that makes things interesting.
Where you go, I won't.
So that's what I'm saying. Where the situation could remain fluid in the coming days, but it's never a good sign whenever the kid leaves campus without signing on that dotted line.
No, and there's every opportunity. Word is you had all sorts of investment by Nebraska to bring in Rocco. Brian Snitley is helping us out with the Coogan call, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Jay is in. Sioux versus the 09 Texas O-line is a feud that will go down in history. That was more of an AK, and it was a one-way street that night down in Dallas, but totally understand where you're coming from. So why? Why is Rocco keeping his options open? Well, the guy has one more year. He wants to win. He just played for a national championship. And you have money on one hand, and Nebraska right now is competitive with anyone and everyone. Okay. So Nebraska and financing, not a problem. What is, though, is faith and belief. What's year 3 going to look like at Nebraska? What's year 2 going to look like Signetti in Indiana? And what is year 2 going to look like at Michigan? So despite Michigan taking their lumps this year, they still finished the year strong, beat Ohio State, beat Bama, finished ranked 8-5, a far cry from unbeaten in a national championship, but they righted the ship. Indiana, an 11-2 run, and got whacked in their 2 biggest games, but had a pretty good audience that showed what they did to Nebraska. That was their biggest game to date. And they did whatever they wanted against Nebraska, 56-7. So if you're Rocco right now, do you have a better chance of getting back to the playoffs at Michigan, Indiana, 2 teams that aren't far removed, Indiana this year, Michigan 2 years ago? Or are you betting on Nebraska to make that jump? And Nebraska's pitch is, here's some money. We want you on the offensive line. Be part of that reason that Nebraska does make the jump. Be part of the solution to that in year 3. So this probably comes down to on-field performance and what is factual right now. Michigan's been a playoff team. Michigan was 8-5. Michigan beat Ohio State. Michigan was ranked. Indiana's a playoff team, and Nebraska is not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably your answer as to why Rocco kept on walking.
And from what I understand here, Nebraska did, at least as of yesterday, have the largest NIL offer on the table.
Yeah.
Look at that, kind of a return to normalcy where it's not just coming down to dollars and cents at the end of the day. Was that not good for Nebraska? No, it's not. If they miss out on an offensive lineman, which I still believe they need at least one interior guy, not good. But hey, maybe for the sport, kids not just going wherever the money takes them. That's kind of a positive, right? Can I spin that in a positive way just yet? No, no one's with me on that.
Well, no, because you want people that want to come to your school. And money and NIL is absolutely a factor, but where is it on the list? Right? Yes, you'll overpay for me. That's wonderful, but I want to win and I want to play. And all right, the winning part is still being chased. The payment part is taken care of. The playing part, you got to earn it. You'll have to earn it at Indiana. You're going to have to earn it at Michigan. So that's not really different than the Nebraska situation. Real Matthew checks in. At this point, there's former players with kids going into middle school that thought they were going to be part of the turnaround. Yeah, I mean, turnaround's been a process for sure. So Anonymous says, so we are so bad we can't even buy other teams' backups. That's one way to phrase it. I don't think Nebraska's bad. I think they're a work in progress. I think they're a team that is trying to get better, and they're using every resource and asset to do so. But it is, year 3, and what's that jump look like?
And it comes down to trust, right? Like there are coaches out there, and you saw it with Matt Rhule's first couple years, and that they saw what happened at Temple. They saw what happened at Baylor, and there's trust that, hey, if I go to Nebraska, I trust that Matt Rhule will be the person to get this thing right. 2 years in now, do you still have that same level of trust? I mean, you talk to Husker fans, I think there is still trust, but it's not the same level you had as of 2 years ago. And maybe trust is also misconstrued as hope. Both things can be kind of present at the same time. I mean, you talk to the national college football landscape based on how the last 2 years went. You look at the Indiana game. I mean, you look at how the entire coaching staff on the offensive side of the football, and you get a new defensive coordinator. It's all getting turned over this offseason. You change the special teams coach out. Is there still that same level of trust out there, not just among the fans, but among potential transfer portal additions? That's a question that needs to be asked.
Well, and we can get into that a little bit. We'll get Babber's take on it as well. Look at the turnover. Okay, look at the turnover. And look at what Matt Rhule has decided to do. From a trust standpoint, you have shaken up your coaching staff. Okay, you've got a bona fide play caller and offensive head coach that's a former head coach. You are not going to let your offense be below average anymore. Okay, so I trust that move by Matt Rhule, and it was a hard move because it's a change that needed to be made that he did make, and he made it in season where he was moving some deck chairs. With Mr. Tony moving on, you had that in your back pocket as an option in Butler even before the year got kicked off because you got him hired. So you were prepping. You weren't sure where things were going to be, so you've had a short list of additions, be it in the secondary, at edge. You went and got Simpson back from Florida State to keep your Miami pipeline going, or continue a pipeline, presumably. And then you're able to go to the NFL ranks again for a defensive line coach once you lost a guy that did a pretty good job. So to me, Matt Rhule's for sure made moves to better his football team, and you've seen enough to think that, okay, there's a lot to work with your quarterback if you get the right play caller in.
That's fair. I'm just getting back to the point of trust. It's from the average college football player out there. I know from somebody who follows the team every single day, making the necessary changes to make yourself
that
right
enhances my trust versus sitting pat.
But for somebody else out there in college football, it's looking for 1 year to go play football and 1 year to go make an impact. Do you trust that the right moves have been made considering the wrong moves were made initially? You mean you look at
That's
Nebraska?
Fair. That's absolutely fair. You're in this position to correct, great, but why are you having to correct?
Exactly. Or you look at it from a guy who's in the portal. Look at Nebraska's portal additions last year. How many guys raised their stock by coming to Nebraska for one season last year? Did Jamal Banks raise his stock from an NFL point of view? Did Naor raise his stock from an NFL point of view? Did Dowdell raise his stock from an NFL point of view? Mazuka didn't even play for half of the season. Did he raise his stock?
Dude, you're shredding the, well, yeah, I trust Nebraska and Matt Rhule.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're a transfer portal kid.
That's case by case, but there's a lot of cases you're stacking.
If it's not down to dollars and cents for a transfer portal kid, do you trust that Nebraska is going to be the best place for you?
That's fair. Well, and again, it comes down to your priority. Is it money? Is it winning? Is it playing time?
Yes, 100%.
So to me,
I think the only thing you can trust is, hey, that paycheck's going to be there at the end of the month. I think you can trust the money, but if the money isn't down, or if it's not the be all end all for
trust the money.
Do you trust?
Stay for the wins.
Do you trust that there will be wins next year? Do you trust the coaching staff will have your best interest at heart? Do you trust that if you get told you're going to get playing time, that by the end of the year you're still going to have that playing time? There's question marks.
Well, here's the thing. I trust that the coaches with Dana running things now, they're going to play the best dudes. They're going to play the best guys who practice the best. And it's not that you don't have favorites or can't have favorites or a guy that you have a gut feel on, you go with on a play or on a series. That'll happen. But overall, it's not going to be riding the same horse because you like him better, running through a guy's face mask or he's a high-star recruit. You can't afford to be wrong. You got to put the best out there. Mike Babcock's on the way with Hail Varsity.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
As Lincoln grows, so does Roper & Sons Funeral Home. I'm Tate Shutt, a funeral director at Roper & Sons. We have 5 funeral chapels that are located to best serve your family's needs. In Lincoln, we have our Midtown Chapel on O Street, Metcalf Chapel on North 27th, and South Chapel, our beautiful new facility located at 40th and Yankee Hill. We also have chapels in Waverly and Firth. Roper & Sons, here to serve your funeral needs wherever you are.
Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future. Did you know that every year, public school teachers spend nearly $500 of their own money for student supplies? Let's do the math. That comes out to over $1.2 billion a year. And that's just not right. At Donors Choose, we want students and teachers to have the tools they need for a great education. And now, more than ever, they need your help. Here's what you can do. Go to DonorsChoose.org and choose from teachers' requests that support reading, math, science, history, and more. Once the request is funded, we'll take care of shipping everything directly to the teacher. It's that easy. You'll receive thank you letters and photos from students and teachers and a report of how every dollar was spent. Teachers' needs have never been greater. Learn more at DonorsChoose.org. Donors choose. Support a classroom. Build a future.
Hi, David Brooks here, president and founder of Retire Smart, inviting you to join me and Chip Maxwell every Saturday morning at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6 for the Retire Smart radio show. We'll provide you answers to your most pressing retirement questions and help you navigate ever uncertain financial times. Don't just retire, retire smart. That's Saturday mornings at 7 or Sunday mornings at 6.
Investment advisory services offered through Smart Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Where's the perfect place to go for lunch every day?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Where can you watch all of your favorite college and professional sports all season long?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Who's got family-friendly entertainment all throughout the week, including trivia, music bingo, and live music every Friday?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Hurrdat Sports Bar in La Vista.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to it. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody, Mr. Husker Football, Mike Babcock is here at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, you should be out on the patio, brother. It's glorious outside. How are you?
Isn't it nice? Yeah, I don't trust my judgment on that. And when you talk about, I think of the Four Tops song, "Can't Trust Myself."
I want to hear you playing Ripple on vinyl, cranked to about 11 or 12 with the windows open while we're doing this interview.
Well, okay, no, this
Grateful Dead.
This brings
Ripple in still water, eh?
Yeah.
This brought up this memory. Somebody at Bowling League played the live version of Dark Star, which, Mike, I think you can attest. That's a 30-minute long song.
Yeah, or more.
Yeah, it was. I had the next song in the queue on the old Touch Tunes, and I'm like, okay, this song's still going.
What they were really doing is taking bets. How many gutter balls during Dark Star will Elijah bowl?
Yeah, I think that's on one side. That's the entire side of the record.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I've got it somewhere.
Just talking Grateful Dead reminded me.
We always got to get a little Grateful Dead snuck in, especially
Dark Star is like the live version's like 4 different songs in one song.
Like spring.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Game Dog's asking acoustic or electric version of Ripple. God, I love Game Dog. I would go acoustic. I'm an acoustic guy.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as I said, can't trust myself.
Yeah.
Four Tops. So I'd take either.
Let's keep this discussion going about trust, Babbers and Elijah. I mean, I had fun with that discussion last segment here. You know, if you're Rocco, the trust level, because you've got certain things you want to do in one more rodeo, but there's certain things that you feel good about if you're Nebraska. You're betting things are going to be better. That's the aim. That's the goal. And hey, it's a situation where we like you. We would certainly take you. We kind of need you. And let's go play some ball together. And we don't have an answer yet.
Well, but the one thing that you have to consider is that are you getting someone who understands that if you don't compete in practice and give it everything you've got every day, you're not going to get a chance to get on the field? I mean, I look at that offensively. Holgerson, a simple example of that. You know, Fedoni didn't make it. You know, he had to work to get there. Borkacher did. And that's the kind of player that you have to have, is somebody that's willing to come in here and risk not playing if he doesn't put out everything he's got. And you don't know how the guys that when they come in and visit, whether they understand that. I think that they probably do, what they're told and when they talk to the coaches. And that's the thing that I think is important to understand. If you're going to be successful, is it works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to trust in the fact that you have to put in the work, regardless of what, you know, where you're coming from and what you're getting from NIL money and whatever. Are you going to put in the work? Are you going to compete for that job? We're not just giving you the job. You've got to come in and earn it, regardless of who you are.
Well, and I think that's how business is clearly done at South Bend. And I don't know Rocco at all, but he's a guy to me on the outside that looks like somebody that knows he's good, has been proven he's good, started 13 games for a team that got to the national championship, but also understands there might be a better path to playing time somewhere else based on just what Notre Dame's offensive line room looks like compared to Nebraska's, Indiana's, Michigan's. And so it's not that you're afraid of or running from competition. It's just that, all right, this is a pretty tough place to earn a starting spot. There may be easier paths. And Michigan, they have ruled the offensive line trenches the last couple of years when we talk draft picks. Indiana was good and physical, and Nebraska's trying to get back to that. But it's pretty fascinating. I mean, we're hearing different things, like the NIL offers too good to say no to, so it'll work out. Rocco will be in, but the other side of it is, all right, he left without signing. So, what's next? And I'm glad Nebraska's going after additional talent on the line. I'm glad they're still searching.
Yeah. Well, what do they have in the transfer portal so far? The one offensive lineman, is that right?
Yeah. The kid out of Alabama.
Elijah Pritchett.
And, the recruiting class, freshmen, they've got 3 offensive linemen in their freshman recruiting class, I think. Mm-hmm. The one kid who's from New Zealand went to high school in Utah, one from Hawaii,
mm-hmm.
and one from Kansas.
Yep. Torres is the Hawaiian kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you need linemen for competition. And you talked yesterday about, you got to get those 5 interior guys, and then you've got to get ideally you would have somebody that could play guard or center as a backup, and somebody that could come in as a tackle backup. I think you need at least 7 guys to be effective. And obviously, if you got more depth than that, that's great. But you've got to have more than just the 5 guys that are going to start. So I think it's important. But again, you don't know what the attitude was, what the competition's going to be, whether how much winning figures into the decision. Obviously you're leaving a program that had success, but are you looking for one that you feel like can be similarly successful in your 1 year of availability?
It's Mike Babcock with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Justice, I turn it over to you because I just remembered I told you I was going to give you the next question. So feel free.
So I read something in the South Bend Tribune, Mike, that, Marcus Freeman's trying to kickstart this youth movement. That's why a bunch of these older offensive linemen are starting to jump into the portal. I want to ask you something on a different note. Marcus Freeman has a clear direction as a head coach. Seems out of confidence about himself. You got to assume that Rocco had a conversation with Matt Rhule, and we've been talking about confidence and trust. How much trust does Matt Rhule, you think, have in himself after the way that the staff kind of turned out with the past couple of years and striking out on a couple of guys and having to shuffle around the deck chairs? Does that kind of indicate where the program's at, that maybe Rocco looked at Matt Rhule and said, I don't know if this guy even, has a ton of trust in himself?
Justice, I think that he has complete trust in himself. From his experience at other colleges and then the NFL or whatever. But having that trust doesn't necessarily ensure that you're going to have success. I mean, you went from Temple and Baylor to the NFL, and now you're at Nebraska. The dynamic, I'm sure he understands the dynamic here, but this is a difficult place because of expectations, and those expectations are based on what is now long ago. I mean, it's getting, we've got younger fans now that don't have any idea what that was. The standard that this program is being held to. I probably told this story before, but I remember when Bill Callahan came in, and, everybody looked at it and said, well, every program's had a downswing, and his first year they go 5-6, and it's like, well, there's the downswing. Okay, now we're going to go back up and play for national championships, and it just didn't happen like that. And it's so different now. The Big Ten, all the teams in it. It's not like the Big 8 where you knew what you had to do. Basically, you had to beat Oklahoma, and you could be successful. And it's not like that now. So Rhule comes into that context, and I'm sure that I'm sure that he has trust in himself, but does that fit with what this program expects from a head coach, which the expectations may be unreasonable to some degree, because I don't think you're ever going to consistently be back to where Nebraska once was.
It's I'll say this. I think I believe Rhule when he talks about playoffs in 5 years. I mean, this is going back to some of his national appearances, even leading up to this season, and talking about, contending for a playoff spot. And it's not salesmanship. It's not a great soundbite, although it works for both. I mean, it's great salesmanship and it's a wonderful soundbite. But when we boil it down, the guy's a competitor. He wants to win. He loves reclamation project. He's comfortable because he's done it and it's worked. And he's hungry, clearly, post NFL, right? I mean, you get humbled in football, and now it's time to go flip it. And what's probably killing him, because he talks a lot about November. Close games are killing him, and November's killing him, because those are two things that he knows you got to be great at, and you really got to be great at in the Big Ten. And to get to where they want to go, it needs to change. And they had chances again a year ago to fix that. And they just got to get better. They just got to get more talent, but they also got to coach better. So this is really fascinating, year 3. Babbers, I need some overtime because I got to dive into a little spring football and some hoops with you if you've got it.
Okay. Yeah. That's all I have this time.
Okay.
No insight.
Sound a little more happy about saying, I'm just doing time here. For Babbers.
I'm just here so I don't get fined there.
Yeah, that's Mike's tone says, well, yeah, I guess I could go outside and enjoy the sunshine and 58 degrees in January, but no, I'll sit inside my football office and give you a few more minutes. We appreciate it. Mike Babcock, a little bit more with us here on Hail Varsity. 489-1240 numbers to get in. 800-825-5865. And always find the podcast when you search Hail Varsity Radio. More with Mike Babcock on the way with Hail Varsity.
Tonight, the quarterfinals of Heartland Athletic Conference basketball tournament. It's Lincoln Southeast and Lincoln High. Join Will Wilson, Tim Bob Kitzmiller for the play-by-play. Coverage tonight begins at 7:20 right here.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Good afternoon from the 1011 newsroom. I'm Cole Miller. Coming up, a former Nebraska congressman sees the federal case against him dropped. Plus, we're back at the state capitol following a few bills that aim to ban the sale of Kratom and Delta 8 products here in Nebraska. And during this warm stretch, Lincoln Fire and Rescue is out practicing ice rescues. We're there to watch that training in action. These stories and much more tonight.
At Arnie's Pet Foods, they believe a happy dog is a healthy dog, and it all starts with the food they eat. Many name brand foods you see on TV list corn as the first ingredient. At Arnie's, the first ingredient in their pet foods is whole meat, what every dog requires. Stop by and see their selection of award-winning 5-star, highly nutritious dog foods, high in meat, low in carbs, and no corn. Arnie's Pet Foods, Alamo Plaza, 56 and Highway 2, where they care as much for your pets as they do their own. Online at arniespetfoods.com.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
Please, give me my biggest tax refund, please. You me and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be
in the refund.
Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow
it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avastin-capted Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Hey, it's Bill and Will Wilson from the Morning Hookup. Coming up on a Thursday on the Morning Hookup, we'll take
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. Mike Babcock with us. Some overtime. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. And can always stream the show, Hail Varsity YouTube channel at MD Babs on Twitter, where you can follow Mike Babcock. Mike, let's spend a minute on the spring game and moving forward in this new world of college football with revenue sharing, NIL, and a 105 roster. It doesn't feel or sound like it's going to be the same anymore. Still kind of waiting on the specifics for 2025. And then, beyond, what do you do? How do you feel about the spring game maybe fading away? The most important part, if you're Nebraska, is the 15 practices, the development, but it's always been something that has been that extra home game. It's been great for Lincoln economy-wise, but also for the thousands and thousands of fans who got to go to a spring game with family and friends.
Yeah, well, it's a whole new world that we're living in. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say what the effect is. I think spring is going to be really important for Nebraska because you've got the new coaches. You've got to have the mesh there with the new coaches. Everybody has the same thing when you're bringing in players, transfer portal, and young players that have enrolled already. How do they fit into the plan? And you got to get this done in 15 practices. That's a tall task, I think. Again, because of you're doing it with the coaching staff as well as your players.
We have some breaking news in here to the show.
Yep.
I saw that.
John Cook has seemingly retired after 25 seasons at Nebraska.
Yeah. Coach Cook, and here's the statement here. John Cook announces retirement after 25 seasons. Four-time national champion Nebraska volleyball head coach John Cook, who's won more matches than any Division I football coach this century, announced his retirement. Quote, "I've been here for 25 years. That's a long time to do something. It's been a great run," Cook said. "I want to thank my family and their support. I want to thank Bill Byrne, Terry Pettit for giving me the opportunity to be the Nebraska volleyball coach. I've had the opportunity to work with some great coaches and staff over the years, and I'm forever grateful for how hard they worked and for how much they gave to Nebraska volleyball. I think we can say thank you, Coach Cook. Thank you for being great and what you've done." Mike, quick reaction.
That is a stunner. I'm really surprised with that news. I had no idea that would be a possibility. It's remarkable to me because when I was at the newspaper, the Journal-Star, way back, I covered volleyball. Terry Pettit was the coach. They had to chase intramural players off the court at the Coliseum in order to set up their nets so they could practice. His office was just like I don't even know how to describe it. You sat at one end of it and you couldn't see the assistant coaches at the other end of it because it was basically a janitor's closet kind of a place, to where it's where Terry took it and then where John took a hold of it and moved it on to a place that you couldn't have imagined it. I don't think. Nebraska is, that's the signature sport in Nebraska in a lot of ways. Obviously football is the thing with the stadium and everything, the number of people that can go to that, but volleyball is just a remarkable amount of success, and expectations are so high that there's a lot of pressure on John, I'm sure, through all those 25 years, but never showed it. And Nebraska was just as successful as could be.
I mean, you think about his time at Nebraska, that 25 years. I mean, one of the first things that stands out is 92,000 into Memorial Stadium, setting a world record for a women's sporting event. 4 national championships at Nebraska, 9 Big 12 championships, 5 Big 10 championships, all during his 25 years at Nebraska. I mean, it's a dynasty. And whoever is going to be filling the shoes next has some huge shoes to fill with that Husker volleyball program. There's still some talent in the Husker volleyball program, a lot of talent coming back, but man, huge shoes that somebody's going to have to fill.
And the influence on the state. I mean, high school volleyball in the state is reflective of what John Cook and Terry Pettit have, done with that program.
Wow. Wow. John Cook going to put the cowboy hat on and head off to Big Sky Country. Bless his heart for all he's done, man. What a incredible ambassador to the sport, and what a incredible head coach and champion he has been. Man, we'll spend some more time on Coach Cook's retirement. Mike, real quick thought on the Fighting Freds tomorrow night with Illinois coming to town to crash the glass, presumably.
Yeah, you got to stop that. It's at home at least, right? So you got to stop that losing streak and get going, because right now you wouldn't qualify for the Big Ten tournament. You're too close to the bottom. I think one away from the bottom, I think. So you got to get to rolling here somehow. And Illinois is the opportunity. I believe, because it's at home, it's going to be a little tougher. The next game is at Oregon. So you got 2 more ranked teams that you got to play here before it. And then I guess you're at Washington, so you're on the road. Hard to tell. But you got to focus on the one game, and that's Illinois. Can they get the job done? And you got to hit the boards, and you got to be as aggressive as you can be without constantly leaving that 3-point shooter open on the offside.
Man, Babbers, appreciate you much. And what's coming up? What are you working on next with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat?
I did something on baseball. I think, I'm not sure if I think that's the next one. I also did one on, now I'm doing a game by game from the 1994 season.
All right.
Tom Osborne's first national championship. So just at the beginning of that, we've had the kickoff classic against West Virginia. And let's see, what was the opening game? Texas Tech.
I'm still feeling for these good folks from Pacific. You play Nebraska, then you drop football.
Yeah. It was what was the tight end name? Carpenter.
Yeah,
he caught 2 passes in his career. One against Pacific in the first season they played him, and one in the second season they played him, and that was his career total. Two receptions, and they dropped football. So the joke was kind of like, oh yeah, it's because of you that they dropped football.
Wow, that's pretty good, Babbers. I'll have to remind him next time I see him.
Yeah,
from the distance, he might punt me.
So he was a great blocker. But yeah, 2 receptions, both against Pacific each season, one against each season.
Babbers, be good. Thank you much.
Thanks, guys.
More on John Cook after this.
Student success in Nebraska public schools extends beyond the classroom. Paraeducators, nurses, psychologists, speech pathologists, and social workers are all part of a powerful team of professionals who keep our kids healthy, focused, and successful. Working together with parents, students, and the community, our public schools can help every student reach their full potential.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Jake from State Farm. I'm winning. I finally cleaned my house, so I'm breaking out my new tropical room spray.
Keep winning and create an affordable price just for you by bundling your home and auto with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It's like your own personal paradise.
Ooh, hey, grab me a coconut water.
Bundling, just another way to save with a personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
My teenage son only has one brain, and it'll keep developing through his mid-20s. But if he uses e-cigarettes, the nicotine in them can impact attention, learning, and memory, and can prime the brain for addiction. So I've talked to him about staying away from e-cigarettes, because my son only has one brain.
Learn more at cdc.gov/e-cigarettes today. A message from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and this station.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. But every driver seeks the pinnacle of their achievements. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.com.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Evan Bland coming up here in 10 minutes. More reaction to John Cook's retirement. Wow. Grateful Red checks in, says, damn. Kobe asked, is it Dani Busboom Kelly time? Kobe also asked, is Cook still going to keep the horse from the extension he signed?
Got half of it. You get to keep half of
it. I would hope so.
Because he lived at what, half of the extension? He made it through?
Yeah, I don't know.
Fourth?
I know, there needs
so
to
he
be
gets a quarter horse.
Sure. Kind of like a quarter cow, right? This is shocking, but I get it. I get it, where Coach Cook probably has been wanting to ride off into the sunset for a couple of years, but I mean, he's recruiting at insane levels. The program is Final Four, like they print money. I mean, they are that elite, and they're in an elite league, and they're mowing people down there. And with whoever has next, you've got a loaded squad.
Yeah,
and
I think that's important to him.
And now you factor in the NIL part of it, where it just ain't fair if you're trying to compete against Nebraska volleyball.
And I think that's a very, very important part of this for Cook, is knowing that whoever succeeds him, and there's a couple options. I know Dani Busboom Kelly is a popular name. You have Jalen Reyes on staff,
sure.
Who's been getting more and more involved with control of the team. A couple of years ago, Tyler Hildebrand was kind of in that same role that Reyes is, and he went off to Long Beach State. Now he's at USC. It's another name. So there's a couple names here in John Cook's going to be involved in choosing his successor, similar to Tom Osborne and Frank Solich back in the day. So, he has got somebody in mind, and the Husker volleyball team probably already has somebody in mind, and we'll see what direction they choose to go in. But I think that's an important part of it for him, is the long-term health of the Husker volleyball program, making sure whoever takes charge of the program next, first off, is somebody that he trusts, and second off, has all the resources that they need for continued success for Husker volleyball. So that's huge for Cook here in this situation. So you'd assume with this decision made that he feels confident about both of those things.
No, future's great, and it's going to be a handoff, and the program will continue to thrive, much like when he was gutsy enough to come back as a guy that was doing really well at Wisconsin. I mean, he built that program, by the way, as well. And not only did Coach Cook come back for a year to be an assistant, from a head coach to an assistant, but then he got the baton from Terry, Coach Pettit, who built Nebraska volleyball, and then not only took that baton, but won a few races. So it's kind of shock and awe right now, but you get it. You get it from look,
we're all working for retirement someday, right?
Right. But I mean, just think of the level he's leaving it at, and pretty much gifting.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's an important part here too. But like, again, as I just said, everyone in life is working to be able to kick their feet up at the end. And John Cook has more than earned the right to be able to choose when he wants to kick his feet up right into the sunset and
let's get on that horse
and live out the rest of his life the way he wants to live out the rest of his life. He's absolutely earned that right. Now the question just becomes, what's next for Husker volleyball, and what's the plan for the future? Because as I just said a little bit earlier, there's a plan behind the scenes for the succession.
Well, and there's probably been a plan in place. It's just when do you do it? Mike says, I'm 20 months from retirement. Good for you, Mike. Kobe says, blank check for Dani. We'll get into hour 2. It's Hail Varsity.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait. Apply now.
Where's the perfect place to go for lunch every day?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Where can you watch all of your favorite college and professional sports all season long?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Who's got family-friendly entertainment all throughout the week, including trivia, music bingo, and live music every Friday?
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
Hurrdat Sports Bar in La Vista is the spot for lunch, date night, corporate events, or even a late-night cocktail. A one-of-a-kind spot for sports fans and more. Behind Cabela's in La Vista.
Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Turn your book idea into publishing gold.
800-215-6818. 800-215-6818. That's 800-215-6818.
What does it feel like to file with TaxSlayer and get your guaranteed maximum refund? It feels like the last level of a video game, facing off against the final boss who stands between you and your refund.
All your refund belong to me.
Using the power of TaxSlayer like a secret power-up he doesn't see coming.
Only the most tax confident can defeat me.
Throwing your laptop at his video game face and watching him crumble into a giant pile of shiny coin tax refunds.
Oh, not fair. You use TaxSlayer.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Lincoln's local news, talk, sports, and weather station. FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR, and KFRX HD3, Lincoln.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Confusion remains over the president's executive order seeking to freeze federal funding for key programs, loans, and foreign aid. A new memo A new memo released by the Office of Management and Budget follows a judge's temporarily block. ABC's Selena Wang has more.
What the White House is saying is that they're rescinding that memo that called for this sweeping pause on federal funding as they try to evaluate what was in compliance with Donald Trump's executive orders. But the question here is that Donald Trump's executive orders, they say, are still in force, and those executive orders call for the halting of federal spending that does not align with his priorities in terms of his EOs on diversity, equity, inclusion, on gender, on foreign assistance.
President Trump signing the Laken Riley Act into law today, named after the 22-year-old Georgia nursing student killed by an undocumented migrant. The new law requires ICE agents to detain undocumented migrants accused of theft and violent crimes. Former Democrat Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the hot seat today with Democrats at a Senate confirmation hearing to lead Health and Human Services. Kennedy grilled about his changing stances on abortion and vaccines. Today saying he is not anti-vaccine. Senator Elizabeth Warren asked Kennedy if he would limit access to and stop studies on certain vaccines, and also accused Kennedy of making money off of his vaccine skepticism.
For all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
8 more hostages are expected to be released tomorrow in the latest Gaza ceasefire deal phase. They include 3 Israelis held by Hamas for 482 days. You're listening to ABC.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
No trial for a former Nebraska congressman. Hello, I'm Willow Wilson. It's 55 degrees at KFOR. The Justice Department today dropped charges against former Nebraska 1st District Congressman Jeff Fortenberry for allegedly lying to the FBI about a foreign contribution to his 2016 campaign. Court documents say the decision comes after U.S. District Court Judge Trevor McFadden on Wednesday granted the DOJ's unopposed motion to dismiss the indictment against Fortenberry with prejudice. More of this story is up at KFORnow.com. Lincoln police cited an 18-year-old driver after the car he was driving was speeding and lost control, then hit a home in the area of 30th and Fair late Tuesday afternoon.
He was cited for negligent driving and for not having a driver's license, insurance, or registration.
LPD Public Information Manager Erica Thomas says the preliminary investigation shows the teen was eastbound on Fair Street as it accelerated and lost control and hit a curb before crashing into the north side of a home. Thomas says there were people inside the home at the time, and at least one person complained of back pain from the flying debris. The 18-year-old driver was not hurt. First round approval today from Nebraska lawmakers toward a bill which would amend the Nebraska Visitors Development Act. LB 116 from Lincoln Senator Bo Ballard would enable counties to capitalize on a convention center's positive economic impact in the local economy and expand revenues in a county's Visitors Improvement Fund.
If we're going to make the most of investment in our community, we must give counties the flexibility to plan, act, and fortify future prosperity of the project.
Assemble Lincoln is looking at 3 potential sites for a new convention center close to downtown Lincoln. Senator Ballard says if this project moves forward, LB 116 would have turnback tax stay within the political subdivision where a center is being built. In this case, it would be Lancaster County. Lincoln's first forecast. Slight chance of rain tonight. Going to get down to a low near 31. For KFOR News, I'm Will Wilson.
When the winter weather arrives, the TV stations start their choreographed dance. The live shot from a busy street, the stock footage of the salt trucks. Yeah, that's fine. But what happens when the cable goes out? Or the power? Lincoln's KFOR reminds you to keep a battery-powered radio handy this winter. Because as much as we laugh, when we see a reporter sticking a ruler in the snow, you know some storms just aren't that funny.
Keep up with the local news, sports, your favorite talk shows, and pro shows on KFOR wherever you roam. Stream us 24/7 at KFORnow.com or on your mobile. You can download the free iHeart or TuneIn app and stream KFOR on the go.
The following is a paid program. Content is provided by Hurrdat Media and may contain pre-recorded material.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmidt.
Schmidt's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, hour 2. What a day. John Cook announcing his retirement. Well done, John Cook. Thank you, John Cook. And Dani Busboom Kelly announced as the successor, the heir apparent. And away we go. Husker Volleyball. KG checks in. He says first. He's first for hour 2. Jeff is in. Lance says hello as well. We say hi to Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald, at Evan Bland, OWH on Twitter. Evan, not any portal or recruiting news, but, bigger when we talk about Nebraska volleyball and the status it is at on that mountaintop of the premier program in college volleyball. What's your take on this? Wow.
Yeah, this is like some real-time reaction and processing here. I mean, the tweet from Nebraska volleyball comes out of nowhere that John Cook's stepping down, and 19, 20 minutes later, they have their successor in place, and Dani Busboom Kelly. And it's a move that I think people have kind of thought could happen for a long time, but it's sort of like when Nick Saban retired. You're like, well, you know it was going to happen, but man, now that it actually has happened, it just takes you some time to wrap your mind around it. So in one breath, I mean, you have to acknowledge just the greatness of John Cook for a quarter century in Lincoln, the way he grew the sport, the way he pushed Nebraska volleyball to new heights, consistently at the top of the sport. And then in the next breath, the fact that Nebraska was able to bring in an alum who was, a setter and defensive specialist in the mid-2000s, who's had an outstanding career at Louisville and comes back home to lead this, this big red machine. I mean, what a turn for the program, what a turn for college volleyball, the sport as a whole. And it's going to be fascinating to see where it goes. It's just, I think the surprise factor is there right now, because you listen to, Cook's in-house podcast with his daughter, Lauren. They were talking just last week about where the spring match might be played and having a match at PBA. Like, it was very much business as usual in terms of how they could push the program forward. And so big news, huge surprise. He's been the best coach on campus for a long time. It wasn't a former defensive coordinator in 2017. It was John Cook, and what a moment for Nebraska athletics.
Evan, in your eyes, does John Cook step away as the greatest to ever do it, the greatest to ever coach college volleyball? Because maybe it's just a recency bias, maybe it's the news of the day, but that is the first thing that stands out to me. To just go, man, I don't think I can name anyone else that's been more impactful over the last 25 years than John Cook.
Yeah, I mean, the other name that comes to mind for me would be Russ Rose from Penn State and what he did consistently putting that program up. But I mean, you could certainly make a really compelling case for John Cook because of how he kept them, the Huskers, at the top when so much has changed. He kept them competitive into the NIL era, into the transfer portal era. Everyone's going to remember Volleyball Day at Nebraska and the world record that they set inside Memorial Stadium. People are going to remember the All-Americans and just the memories that were made. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one thing to win a bunch of matches in one place and win championships, but I think he also sort of stretched the imagination of what was possible for women's sports, for women's volleyball in particular. I mean, you think about how far it's come since he took over in Lincoln at the turn of the century. Matches are televised now. It's as popular as it's ever been. His players have been rock stars. They outgrew the NU Coliseum to move to the Devaney, and that's been seamless and a great atmosphere too. So yeah, I think just in terms of what he's done for the sport outside of just his own program, as successful as that's been, you got to put John Cook right at the top of the mountain.
Evan Bland with us. Evan, Ken in the stream asked the question, how much money to get Cook to fix special teams? Cook was originally a football coach.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about John Cook. I covered a season when I was in college, the 2005 volleyball season. And I just remember even then, like he was a football guy coaching volleyball, and like he understood that it wasn't the most popular sport in the world. And so what he would always do with media, with casual fans, with boosters, was he would relate it to football, the setters, the quarterback, so on and so forth. He would always try to expand the sport that way. But I mean, his story is great, right? Like he was a guy from California, from San Diego, who wanted to coach football. An opportunity came up to do the volleyball thing, and he went with it. But I think his love for football was one of the reasons why he became such a good ambassador for the sport, because I think he was very relatable to a lot of fans, casual fans. It was a sport that he fell in love with and felt like he wanted to share that passion with people who maybe hadn't found that yet. So it'll be interesting to see, because like I felt like just being around John Cook a little bit these last few years, that he still has plenty of energy, plenty of passion to live life. And so whether that's, riding horses and doing that thing or something else, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he still has a lot to give to whatever it is he wants to do next. And, I'm not saying Matt Rhule should give him a call about the special teams coordinator job, but I think they could probably find some worse candidates too.
That's a good call. Hey, John, I'll buy you another horse. Come on down. Let's talk about Dani and the magic she's created at Louisville and the familiarity she has in Lincoln. Obviously, just at the LOVB volleyball match this weekend with Coach Cook, and putting the old connecting dots together with that. This is the announcement, and then the announcement, and the baton being passed. And not easy following a legend, but you know what the legend's all about.
Yeah, I think that's important, to have a sense of what you're walking into. You're not unfamiliar with kind of the roots of the program, where that came from. She's been associated with the program in some fashion for 20 plus years now. Like I said, a former player who had a lot of success on those mid 2000s teams and branched out and did her own thing, grew her own career and became extremely successful at Louisville. I believe that was a program that didn't have a lot of success prior to her arrival. And so she built that thing up. And I think even if she weren't associated with Nebraska, like she would have been a very strong candidate, maybe a favorite. But the fact that she can appreciate things like having come from the Coliseum and former players and what the program means to fans and the state, I think all that's really important. So, again, she was someone who was long viewed as sort of the heir apparent. I believe it was in her contract at Louisville that she could step out and go to Nebraska if that job ever came open. So it was pretty clear she had a passion for it. And, that's the benefit of being at the top of the volleyball world like that, is you kind of have kind of your first dibs on whoever you want. And they identified Busboom Kelly long ago as someone who could carry on that program. And, it's in great hands, obviously, from where John Cook put it. And it's going to be fascinating to see where it goes from here.
Evan, where do you build the John Cook statue on campus?
You could certainly put it outside Devaney. I guess I would probably put it somewhere on the walk between Memorial Stadium and the NU Coliseum. I mean, he kind of that to me is kind of the middle ground of what he achieved. I mean, he grew that thing out of the Coliseum, and then of course, again, volleyball day. When you talk about the most full Memorial Stadium's ever been for an athletic event, it was the volleyball match. It wasn't any football game. It was that match, a couple of years ago. So that's where I'd put it, man. You can see it when you're walking by the Coliseum, when you're walking by Memorial Stadium. Maybe the image is of when they beat Wisconsin a couple of years ago, when he puts on the cowboy hat and he's kind of grinning at the crowd. That to me is kind of that image. The cowboy who kind of went out on top, rode off into the sunset, sort of thing. So that's where I'd put it. I think it'd be a high traffic area and a spot that fans would definitely appreciate on game days and quite often.
He gets 2, right? One in front of the Devaney, one on the walk. Just give him 2. Let's commission it now. Evan, let's talk portal and Rocco. And what is the latest? What are you feeling here with the Notre Dame transfer and Nebraska's chase?
I kind of thought we'd get some resolution yesterday or today because of some of the academic deadlines and circumstances that are in play. He visited Indiana last weekend, Nebraska Tuesday, and so you have to be enrolled as of yesterday if you want to participate in spring practices with either of those schools. So it's possible that he has, and the announcement, he just hasn't made the announcement yet. It's also possible, as someone who's a grad transfer and has played a lot of football and dealt with a lot of injuries, that maybe he's somebody who would come in more in May or June and join the team and be a part of things at that point. But it seems like it's still down to Indiana. It seems like Michigan is still in the mix. It's going to be telling to see if he ends up making a trip to Ann Arbor this weekend. If he does, it feels like a situation where Michigan could close. He's from the state of Michigan. They were his second choice out of high school when he chose Notre Dame. So it feels like the longer you go without a decision, the more it might favor his home state team. But I still think Nebraska is going to be competitive in terms of its NIL package, certainly in terms of its playing time. Its need and desire for upgrading the offensive line has been pretty clear the last 6 weeks. So I would think we'd hear something here pretty soon with his decision, one way or the other. But again, what I'd watch for is that Michigan visit, and if that happens, that's probably going to change the conversation.
Yeah, what does it mean to you, Evan, if Nebraska can't lock this one down? It really feels like they need another interior offensive lineman. What does your level of concern become if they are not able to supplement that position via the portal?
It's clear that that's a position they feel like they need to upgrade. I mean, you think about what Dana Holgerson, I believe, said last month about how he felt like Donovan Rhule had maybe 6 guys that he trusted to play at that time, at that moment on the offensive line. 3 of those guys are gone. And then you're getting back potentially Teddy Prohaska and Turner Corcoran from serious injuries. So what's their status going to be? It's not to say they can't upgrade in April when the portal window opens again. They've certainly added impact players in that window before. Marcus Washington a couple of years ago. Sear Wright was a summer ad last year and obviously contributed quite a bit. So you can still do it. It's hard because those guys just aren't as prevalent in the portal. And Nebraska's clearly made its pitches with a lot of these guys, Isaiah World and a number of other players where they just fell a little bit short. She has Pete more recently, but personally, I kind of feel like they have the depth. They signed a strong offensive line class a couple of years ago. So maybe it's a situation where you have to have a guy step up a year before maybe they're comfortable with him doing that. But I wouldn't rule them out. They're pretty creative when it comes to finding talent and guys who can contribute. But there's no doubt this has been a priority for them. And if they don't lock down this particular lineman in Spindler, you can bet that they're going to be beating the bushes here in the spring as well.
Evan, we talked in hour 1 about the outside trust of guys with Matt Rhule, like a transfer portal addition. Do you trust Matt Rhule that after what you saw the first 2 years, that it will be fixed in the coming season or 2 with the changes that you have to the coaching staff, some of the changes you've had to the roster? I want to get your thoughts here as we talk trust. What is your level of trust in Matt Rhule to get the right hit rate on his transfer portal additions? You can't hit on all of them. Nebraska clearly over the past couple of years hasn't hit on all of them, but there's been a few. You laid one out, Sear Wright. I think MJ Sherman did enough for you. What is your level of trust in Matt Rhule with all the turnover via the portal this offseason that he will have the necessary hit rate to field a winning football team next season?
Pretty good. I mean, I think it's a pretty strong portal haul. I think they spent financially to make sure it was a strong haul. I think they feel good about their evaluation tools. It's a situation where guys do come to campus and they, I think they still view these guys in some respects as high school kids, in the sense that you want to check their measurables, what's their height, their weight, some of their explosive metrics and things of that nature. I think certainly they're going to reset the receiver room. That's a position where you add a whole bunch of talent, both in the portal and out of the high school realm as well, with Cortez Mills and some other guys. You reload the depth at defensive line. So I think that's a spot where you're certainly going to find a few guys. I thought their quarterback addition as a backup, that's kind of a tough sell, like to find somebody who is willing to play behind Dylan Raiola, but I thought they did that pretty well. And I just thought they walked the line well between sort of longer term high upside guys like Williams Winery, who can come in, who has 4 years left, with guys who are 1 year players who are going to make immediate impacts as starters, like Marquise Watson Trent, who's produced at a high level for years as a middle linebacker. So it seems to me this is a portal group where, at least half of those guys you would expect to be starters or strong rotational players right away. And the other half or so are guys who have a ton of upside and maybe would be, guys who would be in bigger roles in a couple of years. So I think it's a strong class. I think the national rankings reflect the perception that Nebraska did well in the portal. And like you said, you're not going to hit on everybody, but I think they did a good job of addressing what their weaknesses were and trying to find guys who are at least somewhat proven playmakers in that respect.
Evan, awesome to spend time today talking volleyball and some football. Thanks for taking the time here with us here on Hail Varsity. We'll holler at you probably see you on Saturday.
Yep, sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Yep.
There he is. Evan Bland with us, Omaha World Herald, at Evan Bland, OWH on Twitter. Open phones here. Your thoughts on John Cook's retirement, on Dani moving in.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
Every home is different. Every family is different. So when it comes to a new heating and cooling system, why not get what fits you best? Get the perfect fit with Bryant. Maybe you need higher efficiency, better humidity control, increased warranty, or all the bells and whistles. Bryant provides options. Options in warranty, brand, comfort, and efficiency while maximizing savings. Call 467-1111 or visit BryantLincoln.com. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. We do whatever it takes.
Culligan has a long history of providing custom solutions to address the area's water worries. Local water issues, including PFAS, arsenic, nitrates, and bacteria, can wreak havoc on your home and health. You can trust Culligan to deliver better water solutions and better service. No one else offers the combination of local expertise and industry-leading technology like Culligan. Contact Culligan for water you love. Contaminants may not be in your water.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1.
And
now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and Justice Rhody. Reaction to John Cook's retirement. Dani Busboom Kelly moving in to the spot, the top volleyball spot in the country, arguably, and the top volleyball spot in college volleyball. Good tweet here from our friend Mitch Sherman. DBK was always the choice for Nebraska. She was the only choice and a great choice. Watching her at the Final Four in Louisville this year, it's clear she's more than ready for the biggest job in college women's volleyball. Huge shoes to fill, but the right person. That's so key. And when you look at a coach, the caliber, the excellence of John Cook, and say this, like between Brandon Vogel and John Baylor and Jacob Badilla, those are the three dudes we've leaned on over the years for volleyball. We've watched it, we've had thoughts and takes and talked about it. Those are three dudes that really, really, really know volleyball. So we'll have Vogues on tomorrow. We'll check in with Bill Dolman tomorrow morning as well. But the guy who builds and then takes it to astronomical levels of excellence, where Nebraska volleyball is Duke basketball or North Carolina basketball or Bama football. That's the zip code you're in. Because, the years, you ask him, you get real serious and sit down, he's pissed he didn't win another title. Mm-hmm. And he's pissed he didn't win another title last year. And that's the expectation. That's Busboom Kelly's expectation coming in, and the selflessness to, he had to tug of war it. Do I stay one more year with this crew that as freshmen and sophomores are so close, and then they're juniors to be now, and then just hand it off versus wanting to go get one more title?
Well, and that's how we expected him to go out, I think, was to go out.
No, I know, but I'm saying put yourself in his shoes as far as keeping the program bigger than you.
Oh yeah. 100%.
That to me, that's
well, and that's
amazing.
That's hat tip, yeah.
I mean, it is, because a lot of us are wired to want to go and go and go and go, and you want the finish line, the payoff. The payoff has been to keep it great and continue it to be great with this handoff.
And you look at it with this handoff. We talked about it last hour. The plan after Cook, I think, was always very important to him, to make sure Husker volleyball stays on top. He just kind of laid out.
It's his thing, man.
Very important. And to put the personal glory and the personal accolades to the side, because he's got a squad that over the next 2 years has two great chances to win 2 more national championships. That's how it's set up right now.
Realistically, they could, not to go revisionist history, but they could be working on 4 in a row. That's how good the talent is.
And to look at that and the disappointment in the Final Four this year, the reverse sweep, to not let that taste sit poorly in your mouth and to say, you know what, now is still the time for me to turn the reins over and set somebody else up for success, and somebody like Dani Busboom Kelly. It's ultimate admiration from me, and you need it to go right. You need Busboom Kelly to be the person for the job. I highly, highly trust John Cook to make that correct choice and to say, you know what, if he says Busboom Kelly is the one, I fully believe that she is.
And he knows.
And he does know. But to be able to put your own personal glory to the side and say, I care more about Husker volleyball than I do about ending on the mountaintop. Admiration for me.
That's big. That is, I mean, that is, you can't really say leaving it better than you found it, because you walked into a successful championship program. Who do we got?
We have Pete on the line.
All right, Pete, go for it. Thanks for calling.
How you doing today?
We're good. We're kind of just, wowed that the greatest is hanging him up.
Well, let me ask you a question. This NIL takes an awful head coach nowadays, and we've seen it. It ain't worth being a head coach, or just soon be an assistant and concentrate on that. Do you think the NIL had something to do with him retiring maybe before he kind of planned on? Do you think maybe he's just getting tired, and the amount of time and the amount of phone calls and the amount of sucking up you got to do to keep players and get players just came to a point where it ain't worth it?
I think John Cook probably, Pete, got talked into staying a couple of years. I think he was probably ready to walk out on top with the last title he won. And I think he got talked into it by himself, talked into it by the players he recruited. He wanted to see these freshmen turn into champions. And I think he did Nebraska solid, while folks that may have been the heir apparent were getting seasoned. Okay. I think he hung on. Pete, thanks for the phone call. 489-1240 to get in. I think he hung on. He could have walked away 3 years ago. But I think it's sweet if you're John Cook to have volleyball day in Nebraska. It's sweet to have an E60 documentary that the world's wowed by. And part of that to promote women's sports and volleyball. I mean, there are some things that all along the way, and we'll talk to Vogues about this, but it's pretty pertinent in John Cook's biography that Brandon Vogel did get it, Dream Like a Champion. About 10, 12 years ago, he had to shift on how he's running the program, Elijah. And that, I mean, you're always learning. Nick Saban said, I'm going to go to a mobile quarterback while they're winning 11 games a year. That's an unnecessary risk, but he knew in the long run it'd bring him more titles and NFL draft picks. John Cook, similarly, from a style of coaching and connecting with players, the guy's just been doing TikToks, right? John Cook's not a TikTok dude, but he's doing TikToks so he can connect with his players.
And the last thing I'll add to this is the fact that all of this legacy that we talk about him leaving behind, like, he was also somebody who had to go fill the shoes of another great in Terry Pettit.
Yes.
And I don't want that to be swept under the rug, because that's a hard thing to do. Oh, you see it with Solich.
Most everybody crumbles in that shadow.
Exactly.
It's brutal.
And to be brought in under the circumstance that it was, where his first year was pretty much national championship or bust with the talent that they had on that team. And for him to go live up to that, and then to keep it rolling forward, I don't want that to be swept under the rug, because we're going to talk about it.
Never got comfortable.
We're going to talk about it over the next 9 months with Dani Busboom Kelly, with her filling the shoes of a legend. Cook had to do that just the same himself, and there was no drop off.
And kudos to her, dude. She could easily just say, dude, I'm knocking on the door at Louisville. I've got my own thing going. I don't want the aggravation or the comparison. But there's also probably a sense with her, and she'll talk about it, where, this is my program as well. I love Nebraska, so I want to be back in Nebraska. She had a clause in her contract at Louisville where the buyout is, it's kind of the old Lou Holtz Notre Dame clause, where the only place I can leave for is Notre Dame. The only place I can leave for is Nebraska.
I think that legalese-wise said her undergraduate alma mater, just to make sure there's no other names in there. But yeah, that's what it means. It didn't say Nebraska. It said undergraduate alma mater, but it means the same thing.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, lawyers.
But just in case that undergraduate, that N was capitalized. All right. Who's on the line?
We got Steve from Lincoln.
All right. Steve, thanks for calling.
This is Steve from Lincoln. Chris, Elijah, I gotta say it once again.
Steve, Steve, we're up against it. What's the question, bud?
Very good. Rather a comment. Coach Cook did great things for Nebraska. A generous man, great man, smart coach, and we will all miss him. But what a great thing he has done with his choice if he wanted to go, how he did it. Brilliant coach. How do you think the Husker volleyball team will do in the next 2 years with this transition, Chris?
Hey, Steve, buddy, appreciate you calling. Thanks for tuning in. I think their expectations are
they're unchanged.
They're unchanged. They're his expectations. They're Coach Busboom Kelly's expectations. They're those players' expectations to go get it done.
I mean, and with what is still in the cupboard, with all of the talent that volleyball team has right now, I mean, losing Lexi Rodriguez is going to hurt moving forward. But, I mean, you return talent just about everywhere else in that volleyball team. The expectation doesn't change. It's still national championship or bust. Like, Final Four has to be the expectation moving forward. It's not, oh, well, she's taking over for a hard job. There's going to be an acclimation process. None of that. It's going to be absolutely straight back to the grind. This is a national championship caliber team, and she is a national championship caliber coach.
Gosh darn it. This stream comments, you're making an amazing point. We're being serious. This is an important day. And
KG made a wild comment.
KG made a wild comment in the stream.
Not even related to what we're talking about.
No, but
here.
it just, I caught my eye and I could not, I mean, it's like you let one rip in church and you try and not laugh in church.
That's not the first thought I had, but okay.
Well, you see your brother, it's happened, all right? And then dad gives you the old Charlie horse, and away you limp off to the bathroom with tears in your eyes. Anywho, I'm sorry. I am sorry for disrupting that take.
No, you're fine. You did a good job holding it in check.
I mean, I'm trying to turn, and KG. We've got to come. We'll end we'll end the show with KG's comment. No,
I don't think we need to.
No, but it's just out there. It's hilarious.
It's the nursing home part of things.
Yeah, no, I know.
Those that aren't following along, check out the YouTube page. I think you can go back and look at
about
the comments.
5:31 mark, and I just saw it now. That's so brutal. Oh, funny.
How do we get back to John Cook?
To football.
to volleyball, actually.
I mean, my question is, how involved is he going to be? Like, Skylar asked it in the chat. How, like, is it like Nick Saban at Bama with Kalen DeBoer, where Cook's
I think you invite
involved?
that. You invite that if he's willing. I mean, if it's cowboy time in Big Sky Country, then so be it. But you absolutely don't be. And I'm not saying Dani Busboom Kelly is this at all. She's going to want input. You're either the type of coach that wants greatness around you, or you're the type of coach that is threatened by it. Okay. And she played for him. She knows it. It's bigger than it's the premier volleyball program in the country. So you just don't scratch or wreck the Ferrari. All right, and she's a good enough coach that she'll do fine.
Well, imagine Frank Solich turning around post Osborne and saying, "You know what, Tom? Thanks for all your hard work. Stay to the side. This is my program."
Well, that happened post Solich.
That's.
I mean,
you understand what I'm getting at.
No, I know. I mean, it crazily it happened.
Things didn't tend to go too well.
No, the Ferrari was scratched and then totaled. And now it's a salvage, and it still runs. All right, Jock Doc's on the way with Hail Varsity.
Boys basketball Thursday night, the semifinals of the Heartland Athletic Conference Tournament. I'm Jeff Moats. You can join me for the play-by-play. Coverage begins at 7:20 right here.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
Hi, this is Jason Ball, President and CEO of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. At the Lincoln Chamber, we love bringing people together to talk about business and community growth. And 3 programs in particular, Latino Connect, Rise, and the Lincoln Young Professionals Group are all off to an exciting start this year. Latino Connect provides opportunities for Hispanic and Latino business owners in Lincoln. From our inaugural event last November to our most recent one in January, the program is off to a fast start, promoting business growth and success. Rise continues to motivate and bring Lincoln's women business leaders together, empowering those in attendance and providing leadership, community coaching, and more. And Lincoln YPG hosts YP at the Capitol on February 13th. bringing YPs from Lincoln and Omaha together to talk about public policy and more at the state capitol. It gives them a stake in the future of their communities. If you want to get involved in these or other chamber programs, please visit lcoc.com and help us grow Lincoln in 2025 and beyond. Thanks and have a great week.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Ole Olson, D.C. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage in the arms, hands, legs, or feet.
What are the symptoms?
Symptoms can be numbness, burning, tingling, pain, or even loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we see amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands, or balance issues, call Asuta Health today for a nerve damage screening. This screening will tell if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our cutting-edge treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Simply call 402-745-3115. Act now. Call 402-745-3115 for your free nerve damage screening. Be among the first 10 callers and get this important screening for free. 402-745-3115.
William is one of millions of Americans who uses GoodRx to save on the cost of their prescriptions.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. It adds up at the end of the month. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx saved you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. We're able to do all these extra activities, so it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
Download the free app or visit GoodRx.com and start saving today. GoodRx users are compensated for their time. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance.
KFOR is now available in high definition stereo.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Dr. Brandon Seifert is with us. Dr. Brandon, the big game is just around the corner, and one of Nebraska's own, Cam Jurgens, back to that stage, the ultimate chase of a championship. And, man, was he – are you hurt or are you injured? Well, he was both, man. What a second half for the Pride of Beatrice.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? That's such an amazing story. Yeah, and it's weird, too, to think that, the big games right here, it's with the new college football players, how close those two kind of championship games it feels like are now.
No, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit here about Cam Jurgens and just what he endured. He didn't start the NFC championship because of a back injury. Well, his substitute, I think they had duct tape. I'm kidding, but they were trying to keep the guy's knee stable. That wasn't going well. So Cam had to rub some dirt on his back, and he played through it. And he was pretty emotional, quite honestly, afterwards. And Dr. Brandon, we don't have specifics, but let's speculate a little bit here. What's a common back injury for offensive linemen?
Yeah, it's kind of a whole, I would say, buffet of things that could be out there. The one we worry about kind of most commonly would be what we call a sacroiliac joint irritation. So that's basically where the pelvis and the spine come together. There's a joint there called your sacroiliac joint. Pretty easy to flare that up, but you think about, again, the contact, that back kind of hyperextension they're doing with blocking, all those things season long are going to be pretty tough in that area. So that's pretty common. Other things you worry about would be, something more significant like a disc issue. So the disc is that space. There's a kind of a cartilage disc. It's a pad that's in between the vertebral bodies, which make up the spinal column. That disc can be, traumatized, obviously, significantly during football. You could get a point where part of that disc starts to herniate out or push out and start to push on a nerve. So that's a possibility, although probably lower likely if they're letting them still play on it. And then, next one can just be something as simple as like a stress fracture in one of the little wings that come off the side of the vertebral body, like a pars fracture, that can happen. And then again, those little other bony promises that come off and are attachment points for ligamentous and muscular structures, like a transverse process we've talked about, those kind of things can happen as well. So all of the above for those are at least possibilities for him. I didn't see anything specifically that the medical staff had released on what exactly his pathology is, but those would be some things I would speculate on.
Is there anything that just strikes you as most likely, given the fact that, you know what, he was listed as out for the game, but then he's suited up, and now because they need him, he's able to play in the second half? It strikes me kind of as more of a pain management issue as opposed to anything that could lead to long-term damage. I want to get your thoughts on that, and if that gives you any clue as to what a likely injury here might be among those that you just listed.
Yeah, I would probably lean more towards the SI issue. I would say it's either an SI issue or he's got an issue where he has some tendonitis along one of those muscular structures and tendons that could be limiting him. But the SI joint's probably the most likely culprit here.
Before we get to what the next week and a half looks like for Cam as he gears up for the Super Bowl, if that is the diagnosis, just want to get your thoughts on the actual in-game pain management that likely happened on Sunday, that will probably also likely happen for the Super Bowl. Whenever they talk to him at halftime and say, hey, Cam, we need you in the second half, is there anything that can be done for him from a pain management point of view with these kind of back injuries?
Yeah, so these are good things with some higher dose kind of anti-inflammatories they're going to think about. They might think about like a steroid shot, and if it's an SI joint issue, this would be a great time to use like a steroid shot into the SI joint, and that'd be reasonable to do something like that. Those would be probably the mainstays of treatment for him, at least kind of acute game time scenario. Obviously, from now leading up to game, rest him as much as you can. He's not in the weight room. He's not doing contact. Just a little bit of some flexibility, core strengthening activities would be what you want to do kind of leading up to the game, just to give him some rest as much as possible leading up to game time. But those would be kind of your mainstays. Obviously, the things you watch out for in this scenario would be any kind of nerve issues. So is there a nerve being pinched, whether it be if there's maybe a disc issue, or even if there's enough inflammation in that sacroiliac joint, you can have some numbness and tingling and potentially even a little bit of motor disruption related to that, although pretty rare. Those would be things that would say, no, you can't go if you have that.
Dr. Brandon, let's talk, God forbid, re-injury. Say he's got these next few days to get healed up, to get the rest, and then go at it for 4 quarters against Kansas City. How temperamental, how sensitive is the back?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's with what he does, the position he plays, with just that chronic repetitive loading of that joint, that's going to be a tough one. Definitely would expect some flare-ups during the game. Hopefully it's minor, where he can just kind of do a pain management scenario and not something drastic where you do start to develop kind of nerve symptoms while playing.
You know, the nerves, we've all had little back issues, some greater than others. And I'm just trying to play through my head, snapping the ball, picking up a blitz, taking on another steam-breathing beast. And then it's 300 pounds, 65 times a game.
And then, not to mention, a couple times a game, Saquon Barkley squeezing through the hole, runs right into said back that is injured.
Move out of the way, fat boy. I'm trying to get to the end zone. I mean, the life of the offensive lineman, man, it's brutal. You had Kelsey say it best, warrior bleep. That's what he called it, some warrior bleep. And you got to be a warrior on the line of scrimmage. From a mobility standpoint, Dr. Brandon, let's go there. One thing Cam does about as well as some of the best to do it, that is his ability to be mobile, to pull, and just get out. I mean, he's a great search and destroy center. Did that in Nebraska, has done that with Philly. And does that maybe limit some of your play calling potentially with this back issue flaring up?
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. You do wonder that. Obviously, we'll have to see kind of what his warm-ups look like, but you do wonder about some of that mobility piece for him. That is a big part of his game, and he is terrific at it. So that might, limit some of that, kind of pulling and some of that extra mobility that they're relying upon from him. They may be a bit limited in that. It just really depends on, honestly, how well they can just kind of manage his symptoms, or he's managing them.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday.
And Dr. Brandon, when we talk about a back injury here, we're assuming he's going to gut through it in the Super Bowl. Does that give you any long-term concerns for Cam's health here? About 60 seconds before we get you out.
Yeah, if it's more like that, just the inflammation of that joint, like a sacroiliac joint, then really not a huge kind of long-term issue there. Most of the time, you can calm that down in the off season and be fine. You worry about something more structural, whether it be like a herniated disc, a disc issue in the back, or if there is kind of that, whether it be a stress fracture component or maybe an old stress fracture component where he has some loosening of that vertebral body where it can cause like a slip. There's a thing called spondylolisthesis where you have a old stress fracture that can fully, but either A, doesn't totally heal or kind of breaks through and then the whole vertebral body shifts forward. If you're dealing in that scenario, then yes, that can get a lot worse by pushing through this during this kind of time.
Dr. Brandon, we'll holler next week. Thanks for the time today.
Okay, fellas, take care.
Big thanks to Dr. Brandon. We'll wind down a Wednesday next here with Hail Varsity. You can always log on Hail Varsity YouTube and search Hail Varsity Radio when you're looking for podcasts. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play.
Is planning for the spring. Hi, this is Chris Goforth. Join me and the experts from Earl May every Saturday morning for In the Garden as we help you prepare for the upcoming spring season. In the Garden, Saturday mornings at 8:30 right here on KFOR.
You've got your very own handyman to help remodel your home.
Broken faucet? The biggest faucet sale of the year is going on now. 250 faucets are in stock and on sale at Handyman Home Remodeling Center. Hey Siri, get directions to Handyman.
Has your child swallowed your medicine, your laundry detergent, your nail polish remover? Call the Poison Helpline. Have you inhaled paint thinner, glue, pesticides? Call the Poison Helpline. Have a question about a dose, a fume, something your kid just drank? Call the Poison Helpline. Poisonings can happen at the home, on the job, or in the great outdoors. Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. 1-800-222-1222. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to slow it down. Get it going slower. Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, big thanks to all of you for checking things out in the stream and on the network. Black Hills, Brennan, shout out, Game Dog here, Steve also. And John Cook announcing his retirement. Dani Busboom Kelly in the, wearing the big hat now. So.
The big hat.
Well, yeah.
I like that.
Wearing the big hat. And we'll have more reaction tomorrow. Brandon Vogel going to be with us from counterread.com. And Vogue's just all over volleyball. His biography with John Cook. So I'm sure this was broached at the time of the biography with Vogues and John Cook, when that time comes. So we invite you to go get Vogues and Coach Cook's book. Check her out for yourself. But end of an era, incredible era. Exclamation point of volleyball day in Nebraska, E60. Oh yeah, by the way, championships you add to the trophy case. And we got sound advice, didn't we, Elijah, on Twitter?
Regarding a potential statue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did I say 2 statues?
Well, and let me make sure I get my attribution right here. Tyler
says make sure it's not who.
The same artist who did Dwayne Wade or Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes.
Yeah.
The old D Wade statues. Problematic.
Yeah, that one's bad.
Uh-huh.
Find the artist who did the Dirk Nowitzki one.
That's fair.
That's a good statue where
The
he's fading away.
The
That's
artist
beautiful.
who also did the statue in front of East Stadium with the entire black shirt defense chasing down a K-State running back.
How old is that statue now?
Well, the play was from the 95 season. Probably late 90s.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I got to find, because Devaney's got a statue, right? Somewhere. And Jack Pierce, the late, great Jack Pierce, always said that T.O.'s statue was pointed towards a church and Devaney's statue is pointed towards the bar.
The Devaney's statue is out. He's East Stadium.
Is it East?
In the little rotunda there.
Okay.
The new one.
I should really walk around the stadium more.
And the T.O. in Brooks statue.
That's in front of the complex
now. It got moved.
Yeah. But every year, Michael Bruns, our dear friend, tweets out the Pound the Rock that's buried outside the Hawks Championship Center. You see this giant rock, and now it has all sorts of overgrowth around it. They move the old Pound the Rock out to pasture.
I'm surprised they didn't crush it. They just took it outside and dropped it somewhere. Went, okay,
let's take it to
our work here's done.
A spot where we can dynamite it. That was rough.
No, bring it back like the old chain gangs building roads, where that was your punishment for players. They got to go chip away at the Pound the Rock and turn it into gravel. Instead of running stadium stairs, you're late to practice. All right, bud, get your pickaxe. You're going to go. You're going to go break apart the Pound the Rock.
Working in the mud.
Yeah, the old Cool Hand Luke treatment. You can't put his rock in my field. We're evil coaches. Good thing we're not. All right. We invite you to come on back tomorrow. We'll check in with Gary Barnett. Surprise mystery guest tomorrow. So be ready for that. And a guest you want to check in with for sure, Brandon Vogel. More on Coach Cook, on Busboom Kelly. Shout out tomorrow morning, the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman on KFOR Mornings, as he has been around the volleyball program a lot in his career. Thanks for tuning in. Talk tomorrow at 4 with Hail Varsity.